Okay, hi, friends. And Michael has just let you into the main room where a number of triangles await you. So what I'm going to do after welcoming you is work on page 68 and also, let's see, what have I got there? Yeah, okay. And program as well. Beginning of program 99, end of program 99, beginning of program 100. And we're looking at, let's see, where are we here? We're down here at page 68 and also 210 and 11. I think it's just amazing that so much of the new astrology will be based on triangles. I think DK having a very strong atomic polarization is very related to the idea of the triangle. He said it was that whole method that he launched, he said it was close to his heart and it must go on. And it was having to do with the spiritual will. He also said that there are some quite a few first-rate types that he's teaching. But he said, that's okay, because I have the first ray in my triadal nature. And of course, that would be on the atomic level. So we'll see how far we do get here. It's not rushing through that counts. So Michael and BL and Joe, all on our communications team, are helping me know where I'm going here. And
Michael?
yes, BL.
Sorry to interrupt, but speaking of knowing where you're going, I have in my notes that you were talking about page, looks like page 550, the triangle. Yeah, it could have been. You had made it down 2, but you stopped before you did Saturn, the third component of that triangle.
Let's see, what page was that? 548?
Well, it looks to me like paragraph 3 Saturn is at the bottom of 549, the top of 550.
Okay, well, I'll take a look at that before going into Aries, Scorpio, Sagittarius. I'll take a look at that and we'll see if there's anything further to say. Thank you for the alert. So, well, Tuya's here too as a co-host and welcome. And so also Mariana and Ann Peterson, welcome. And Ann Veronica, Ann Parker, lots of Anns of different kinds. And Annette Ebbett, I think New Zealand, and Astra Farrow, Catherine Pyre, Australia, Georgina Sprague, a guest here. Someone is an iPhone guest, I don't know who it is, doesn't say. Welcome Joan and welcome Mariana Larson. And also it says Marina, welcome, and Martine. I may be from Canada or France, I'm not sure exactly. Mayra Santos and Nyenka Rutterdink, and also Sari. maybe someone new, perhaps Tia, welcome, and Vivian, welcome, and Zenaidi, I think in Switzerland. So welcome to all of you, and we'll, get into the substratum of things. So if I did turn to let's see if I can do this. Going to page 549. Mercury. And did you say the bottom of 549 and looking at Saturn? So that's
right. You
Saturn.
didn't do Saturn yet. And
Yeah.
we can't see your page of EA yet.
Yep, you got them now. Unless I'm much mistaken.
We do. Thank you.
So the diagrams should be seen in rapid revolution. And wherever Mercury is found, there is rapidity. Fleet of foot, as you know, because Mercury carries the wings on its heels. Mercury, the messenger of the gods, carries to humanity a certain type of force. And this precipitates a point of crisis. Well, we might expect that because of the fourth ray soul of Mercury. So there's always going to be some kind of conflict involved when Mercury is present, especially expressing its soul nature. So DK goes on, it brings about the next great revolution, which will lead mankind on to new experience and to the revelation of the divinity, which it is the destiny of man to reveal. And may I say that Mercury is very much man. If we look at that hierarchy among the creative hierarchies, which is called the initiates, and which is comprised of human monads, we will see actually that it is a scorpionic hierarchy ruled hierarchically by Mercury. Well, we do have the Venusians among us, of course, the Christ and Master KH and so forth, but the Buddha and also Jwal, in my estimation, are both coming from the sacred planet Mercury. And they, come to this earth with certain petals, certain petals of their egoic lotus open already. As a matter of fact, it's my impression that none of us really began on Earth at all, and that we were sort of sent from a particular sacred planet to take up residency on this particular planet for various reasons, the planetary scheme of Earth. And so I would say it's kind of interesting to think about which one of the seven spirits before the throne, which one of the sacred planets you may have originated from. Now, some people definitely were individualized on the earth, but many were not, especially the more advanced mental types, either from the moon chain or the previous solar system. So one day we will know our origin. We've been looking here at various rulers. Let's see here. And looking at the connections between Aries, Gemini, Virgo, Scorpio, all Mercurian ruled in different ways and their effect upon the earth. Now, a little earlier, we looked at Uranus in that same way, the hierarchical ruler of Aries, the orthodox ruler of Aquarius, but also being veiled by the moon, and the highest planet veiled by the moon, and then esoterically ruling Libra. They all have their impact on Earth. Now, I'm looking forward to that fine day when DK says we look up in the sky and we see the great passage of all the, well, of so many of the energies. And we're then, I forget the word, but we're supposed to be either the astonished disciple or the astounded disciple. I think astounded is the word. So much is going on, and we have been ignorant of it. So a book like this, and probably future books in DK's intended treatises after 2025 or thereabouts, I think will continue to deal with these amazing subjects, and hopefully we will be reincarnationally positioned so that we can take advantage of that third installment, which is leading right into the knowledge of the New Age. Regarding Saturn here, you know, it is the ordinary ruler of Capricorn and the esoteric ruler of Capricorn. And it has an association in the old astrology with Aquarius, and you do meet quite a number of Saturnian Aquarians. They are not the Uranian Aquarians we would expect. They have quite a conservative streak. And then it is the very powerful in Libra. It is the hierarchical ruler and also the planet exalted in Libra. So this is a little bit different design. And, you know, they try to explain this and say Saturn rules one of the decanates in Aquarius. Well, it rules the first decanate with, I think it's Mercury the second and Venus the third. And he says that's why the beginning part of the Aquarian age will be a difficult procedure, you know, rounding it off to about 720 years, and that's certainly enough time for a few incarnations, but maybe the people that live then in form, including ourselves, will learn something about the law. So, he says, Saturn, this planet applies the tests and is so chosen or invoked because the third ray is not only its particular ray, but is also the ray of our planet, the Earth. Now, probably you know, there is a triangle I guess I could be saying that quite a bit in a program like this. There is a triangle, page 99 or so of Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2, and that triangle is Saturn, Mars, Earth. And suffering is a peculiar quality that is found in relation to every one of those planets. It expresses a great third ray entity in which Saturn is the mental body, Mars is the astral body, and Earth is the etheric physical body. So there is a third ray connection there between Saturn and our Earth. Our Earth has a third ray personality, and Saturn has a third ray monad. And what is its soul? Well, that's a good question. Maybe again, the third ray is involved. It's a very heavy third ray, but the first ray also is involved. Now, what is it that would relate Saturn to Earth along the first ray? Well, let's maybe suppose that Saturn has a first ray personality. The monad of the Earth is on the first ray. So both through the first ray and the third ray, Saturn is related to the Earth. The two notes synchronize, says DK, the note of Saturn and of the Earth. Saturn is also, he goes on to say, the hierarchical ruler of Libra, and therefore it brings, and therefore, may I say, it has a peculiar power upon the atomic plane, where Libra is the sign found dominating on the atomic plane, with Saturn present as the hierarchical ruler. So Saturn is also the hierarchical ruler of Libra, and therefore it brings to the manifestation of mankind and to the various hierarchies involved a point of crisis to which the clue and the outcome lies in the recognition of balance. Well, you will know that, of course, that Libra is the sign of balance. Now, peculiarly, in one point, it says of Libra and Aries that there are no real powerful crises connected with either one. And then later, he describes, I think it's Leo, Saturn, and Capricorn as signs of crisis. So which way is it, you know? In a way, the crisis of decision is found with Libra, and Saturn officiates on this. So a point of crisis to which the clue and the outcome is the recognition of balance. Going on here, as Saturn also controls Capricorn in two of its three expressions, or fields of influence, it is powerful in the three fields, Exoteric, esoteric, and hierarchical. Why? Well, exoterically Capricorn, esoterically Capricorn, and hierarchically Saturn powerful in Libra, plus its exalted nature there. So that's another kind of triangle in which Saturn features. And if you will relate what I here say to what I have said in an earlier part of this treatise regarding Capricorn, you will see how the sign of initiation hovers over our planet, as well as over the destiny of the individual disciple, and that would be Capricorn. So, how he displays this, you have therefore an expression of third-ray force, which the following diagram, it's a parallelogram, I guess you could say, which is like a slanted rectangle, which the following diagram makes clear. Saturn active in all of those three signs, and from, he counts the decanate perspective with Aquarius, and he also counts the old astrology, where Aquarius is ruled by Saturn. Sometimes, with Aquarius people, you get a very broad face, but sometimes the head is very narrowed, which is interesting because it's the effect of Saturn. Okay. So that's a little bit about Saturn. This makes, he says, factually clear that at this time, the signs of balance and initiation can be intelligently used to produce effects on our Earth, and this they will immutably do. Well, we're not going to change the trajectory there. There will be outer initiation presided over by the Christ, who interestingly will have as one of his major signs, so I hypothesize, not only Pisces, but Libra as well. So he is, the Christ has two major signs of the zodiac, in my opinion, anyway. The sign of peace and balance and achieved harmony, and the sign of great compassion, Pisces. I'm not sure whether we can say that Pisces is the rising sign or whether Libra would be. But he is the Prince of Peace. Libra is the sign of peace. And he is associated with the great cosmic decanate, which expresses through Pisces. You know how it goes, right? The Buddha expresses through Taurus, the Hercules through Scorpio, and the Christ through Pisces. All right, that's a little bit about those rulers. So this statement, he says, concludes what I feel necessary to say at this time. Initiation, characterized by self-initiation. That means, of course, that we have to be the initiator of our initiation. We just don't wait for some fine day to say, okay, it's time for you to be initiated. We have to train ourselves accordingly. So initiation, characterized by self-initiation, is the demand of man today. It's one of those summary paragraphs. He says, we're really, as a human family, ready to move into the fifth kingdom of nature. The stars declare it and decree it. So it sounds rather inevitable, doesn't it? The hierarchy, therefore, obeying a higher law, shall we say, the hierarchy, therefore, intentionally collaborates. The crying demand and aspirations of man indicate appreciation of the opportunity. Remember, I think we do, that Saturn is considered the planet of opportunity. Now, usually that's kind of a dignity given to Jupiter, but it's a different kind of opportunity. It's the opportunity that comes by facing one's karma and entering fully into one's dharma. And so it's not all sweetness and light, but it is opportunity to advance. So the crying demand of aspirations and aspirations of man indicate appreciation of the opportunity. After all, the Christ is coming, and he will be rather exoterically giving the first two initiations of the threshold. And the opportunity and recognized understanding of the proved necessity. It's time. It's time that humanity be initiated, and it's time that humanity move into the fifth kingdom of nature in general. The spirit of life enforces this. So that's some kind of monadic influence, and maybe a monadic influence having to do with the earth, particularly with its first ray monad. Now, once the earth begins to be a sacred planet, which it is not yet, its monad will come into real power. And this is not yet the case, but it's coming. And people who are going through the third initiation will begin to appreciate the possibilities. Okay, let's see where we are. I think we were page 68. Is that correct? I think so. And now, on page 68, we begin to see some things about the planet Mars. Mars is the ruler of all three signs that we're taking up next. Exoterically, Aries, and also Scorpio. Esoterically, Scorpio, and hierarchically, Sagittarius. So maybe we would see this on, if we can, here on page 68. Maybe there's not too much information actually given, except many triangles are given. And the three signs involved, just kind of take a look there of what we have with, now I'm going to, I better not leave that in blue because it's just not going to be visible. But in yellow it will be, and I will put the others in yellow too. Not that the color is necessarily correct, but at least the visibility factor is there, and you do see Mars. Let me go to showing it to you. Oh, I guess you do see it, yeah. Mars exoterically, Scorpio both. It's really a sign of great conflict. And Sagittarius, ruled by Mars, hierarchically, which has to do with the lunar lords. Now, probably, if I went to, let's see, my screen sharing is paused. Whoop. Nice to see you there, but that's not what I'm looking for. What am I looking for? I'm looking for this. And page, I'm looking for page 332. And you're familiar with this page. It's a good one, and I'll show it to you in a second, if I can get there. Okay, and I want to make this a little bit like that. Well, with Aries, and considering Mars, for the orthodox rulership, which is not yet really the advanced man, blind, undirected experience, and instinctual reaction. So there's not a whole lot of thought before action. The old saying is kind of ready, fire, aim, just sort of going off and not really thoughtfully thinking about what one is doing. So there's a lot of chaos in this early phase of Aries ruled by Mars. Of course, it does get better. And I can't say that everyone who uses the orthodox ruler of Aries as Mars is undeveloped. That would not be correct. There's a range there of the developing man using Mars in Aries in a manner which is ever more controlled and energized. But at first, the instincts which are unknowing to the mind govern the process. If we go down here to Scorpio, we see that the ordinary ruler can be quite a problem. But again, not entirely, but certainly in the beginning phases. The unity of selfishness, the monster. It's a kind of battle for exactly what one wants, regardless of the consequences. But later, it moves up a degree toward conflict with duality. That's for the advanced man. And one is the fighter. And what's going on there is the battle as a warrior to bring the higher of the pairs of opposites into expression. Now, that can last lifetimes. And I think if we're honest about it, I think many of us are that fighter. Even now, whether we are aspirant or disciple, we want to bring the higher of the pairs of opposites into expression, namely the angel of the presence. We want to bring it into expression over the selfish personality. And as all of us, I think, know, that requires a battle, because there's all kinds of ways that the personality seeks to have its prerogatives and does not want to give up to the higher of the pairs of opposites. So Scorpio is a very Martian sign, and we'll see in a minute, I think we'll see, that Mars rules the physical body. Maybe not the etheric, but it rules also the emotional body, the lower mental body, and the personality as a whole. As a matter of fact, and this is important, if you think about the position of the Earth, it is being drawn in two directions by two planets, Venus representing the soul, or angel of the presence, and Mars representing the personality. And that's one of the reasons that there's such a struggle going on here on this particular planet, where we become, in terms of the new esoteric schools, and note this phrase, which you can find at the end of the Esoteric Astrology book, adjudicators between the pairs of opposites. By the time it's all over, we're going to know what is Mars and what is Venus, what is personality and what is soul. Right now, our planet is not sufficiently advanced for a sufficient number of people to really know that. But with the coming of the Christ, the empowering of the second ray soul of our planet, we're moving closer and closer to a condition in which the soul can take over. The soul is not particularly Mars. Others of the sacred planets tend to rule the soul. Then when you look here at Sagittarius, which is the third of the signs, there's a triangle there, as we have seen, in which Mars rules, what do we have? We have the director of men, the controller of the gate. Well, you know, the far-seeing Sagittarius comes in there, and the antechamber, so to speak, of the process of initiation, ruled by Capricorn, in which Mars is exalted, is Sagittarius. Now, if I were to try to turn to page 35 of the 7 creative hierarchies, I wonder if I can make that any, can I make that any bigger? How would I do that? Maybe not. Oh, zoom in. Zoom in. Zoom in again. Okay, and then show it to you. Oh, you got it. Okay. Now, you see a little bit more here about the hierarchical ruler. When Mars is hierarchical ruler, you see that it's very connected, as is the moon, with the lunar lords, who are still those beings whose evolution was cut short with the solar logoic intervention in the development of the moon chain. Its color is red, and it rules the energy of matter and form. It's called Kundalini Shakti. And what's interesting, you know, tying all these things together, is that at the base of the spine, Mars is one of the rulers. Well, we know Kundalini is associated with the base of the spine, and Mars rules Kundalini latent. I think it's Mercury that rules Kundalini active. And when you're looking at the base of the spine, you can find reasons that Saturn and Uranus are both, and Earth, of course, are very much connected with Kundalini power. But anyway, Kundalini latent. And it's connected with water, interestingly, as is the atmic plane. Why those two should be the same? Well, maybe it has to do with the first ray. In rethinking Mars, I think it has a sixth ray soul. Well, I'm pretty sure it has a fifth ray monad in any case. And its highest monadic ray, as I think there are always more than one, could be the first ray, just like Earth, and just like Uranus. And that would complete a triangle of planets with a high first ray monad. Earth, Uranus, and let's see here, Mars. Okay, well, this chart, there's much to study. The lunar lords need, in a certain sense, to tread the burning ground. Now, I think there's a chart. I don't want to get into it too much. It's in Cosmic Fire, I think around 844. I may be wrong, but it's in the 800s. And it talks about the destiny of the lunar lords. Well, maybe I just have to attempt to show it to you. Yeah, I think I do have to attempt that. So anyway, search, browse, Cosmic Fire, and I hope I'm more or less right about the page. Well, pretty close. That's it. Okay, so it kind of tells, this is a wonderful chart or tabulation, and you better see it, of course. Yeah, I think you do see it. It tells the destiny of various high types of beings. But it goes down the list. You know, what happens to a solar Petri? What happens to, in relation to the human evolution? Where do we go? It's a chart which involves the future, and it involves destiny, okay? And let's just take a look at what is the destiny of the lunar pitris. To become, and here it says, obviously, this is one of my, I think important explanatory references. The lunar pitris, what is their destiny? To become men, just as animals will, only by a different path. To become men, they will, in their higher grades, pass directly into the animal evolution, note, into the animal evolution of the next cycle, and so, as is the custom of animals, and in the next great cycle, to become human beings. The 3 higher grades will become animal men, and the lower 4 will contribute to the quaternic forms of the men of the next creation. Now, he's being a little vague there. What is that next creation? Is it still in our present incarnation, the incarnation of Earth, or do we have to wait until the next solar system? And and then he goes on with the animal evolution becomes human, vegetable becomes animal, mineral becomes vegetable, and basically there's a point at which he tells us that there are transitional forms between all of these kingdoms. Between the mineral and vegetable kingdom, there are forms which in a way are neither mineral nor yet vegetable. Between the vegetable form and the animal form, the same. Forms which are neither entirely vegetable nor animal. Between the animal kingdom and the human kingdom, and this is interesting, there are transitional forms. I wonder if we are that, which are neither animal nor are they yet in the kingdom of souls. So these are kinds of maybe biological oddities which will be revealed in time. There are, as we know, carnivorous plants. Now, that's one, I think, quite a example. And it's called by a peculiar name because Venus is there. It's called the Venus flytrap, and it eats insects. It's a vegetable or a plant, and yet it has animal characteristics. Well, evolution is nothing if not graded and continuous. So anyway, if you want to see where different forms of life are going, study this chart on 844. And I think we would find a lot to lay out the future of the different forms of life, including our own future in the kingdom of souls and on the way of higher evolution. Who knows from a higher point of view what we look like now? We human beings, are we transitional forms? Because, well, maybe we're not quite human in the animal in the usual sense, and not quite human fully, or maybe the transition from humanity to the kingdom of souls, well, maybe those transitional forms are the forms of disciples and aspirants who are not following the normal course of the human being who simply desires what it desires, but nor are we yet souls in the higher sense, at least consciously. So this is a good page to study. Now, got to look at what time it is here. And also with its Aries, Scorpio, Sagittarius, looks like there's another couple of pages here. I've got to, sometimes things get in the way. So I'm going to go out of A Treatise on Cosmic Fire, back into Esoteric Astrology, and the page I want is 210. Let's see if it offers anything. Well, it does offer quite a bit about Mars. So I think since we've been talking about Mars in relation to Aries, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, maybe there's something here that would be of moment to us, a little bit of interest. And our view, expand one level. I guess I want to contract, but well, I'm just going to leave it that way. Now, so Mars on 210 and also on up till a little bit on 211. And then I think we will have done sufficient for today. Now, you know, I'm not talking fast. When I think back about how I first recorded the Esoteric Astrology book, it was like, you know, it was just fast. But I don't want to do that. I want us to have the opportunity to really think and piece together in a manner approaching pure reason what these connections may be. So let's see what comes up here, because as I say, I'm relying upon Starling David Hunter's collection here. And he's done so much work with triangles. So let's see, that's the end. We've started program 101. Is that it? BL, is that what you told me, or did I make a mistake there?
No, that's correct. This is program 101.
Okay, so, all right, so, and today is the 11th of August, and this is program 101, and starting program next time, 102. So we're going slowly, but I think you would agree that if we look at the kind of information we are trying to link up, which is always a predecessor to the ability to have as one's capacity pure reason. So going slowly in the beginning allows a faster kind of noticing of relationships later. But I don't know what this is going to say, so let's just look at it. First, Mars is definitely the planet which rules and controls the physical vehicle. So we could say, yeah, okay, it's therefore associated not only with the base of the spine and Kundalini latent, but it is associated with the sacral center, through the power of which the physical vehicle appears. Also, Mars is the main ruler of the sex impulse and not so much Venus. So Mars is the planet which rules the physical vehicle. Let me see if I can. I'm trying to make this maybe. If I make it any bigger, I've got a problem. Well, the problem is not sufficient to warrant a lot of fooling around. Okay. Mars, he goes on to say, appears first of all as the orthodox ruler in Aries. Now, we've reviewed this kind of thing, but we've got to see what Master Decay says. The sign in which the first move is made towards bringing about objective manifestation or physical incarnation, and hence its association, Mars with the physical body's sacral center, sex impulse, which basically is bringing in to manifestation that which is not a principle, the dense physical body. Now we're talking about the human being here and not something higher, because the physical body of Earth is the lower 18 subplanes with some ambiguity around the higher mental plane. And the physical body, as found on our planet from the sun, is the lower 21 subplanes. Okay, so Mars is that initiates, it's always initiating something, physical incarnation. In Scorpio, the result of all the struggles carried forward during the seemingly endless pilgrimage around the zodiac or wheel of life is brought to a point of climax. The big battle wages, or rages, shall we say, is waged and rages. And that's why so much can be accomplished in a Scorpio incarnation, but it's so difficult to accomplish it. Again, he goes on, through the activity of Mars, which has not appeared actively in the intervening signs between Aries and Scorpio, as far as the reversed wheel is concerned. Now, you know what is the reversed wheel. It's turning in the normal direction of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, etc. It's turning counterclockwise. That's the reversed wheel. And, if I think about it, it has a detriment in Taurus, no particular relation in Gemini. It's in its fall in Cancer. It's a decade ruler in Leo. It has no particular relationship to Virgo, and it's in detriment in Libra, and then comes Scorpio. So that's the justification. It has not appeared actively in the intervening signs between Aries and Scorpio. In a way, you could say, well, you're born and you die, because Scorpio is the sign of death and Aries the sign of birth. But you have to wonder what kind of death it really is in the 8th house. It's not necessarily the loss of the physical body. It might be, or it might be some kind of dying to certain tendencies which are eliminated. Okay. The disciple, I guess it's under Scorpio here, has now to demonstrate the strength, character, and quality which he has unfolded and developed within himself during the long pilgrimage. It has to be, shall we say, shown forth in Scorpio. He started in Aries with Mars ruling, and the great war between the dualities which constitute the man. I suppose it's soul and personality, or soul and the elemental nature, and that great war which constitute the man began. The going on then, the pairs of opposites were thus brought into relation with each other, as is the case with the sacral center, of course. But at least we can say spirit and matter, or soul and elemental life, were brought into relation with each other, and the battle was on. In Scorpio, with the same planet ruling, now note this, his interior life, okay, the war is on, and in this case, Mars not only rules not only the physical body, but the entire form vehicle, which we call the personality in the three worlds. So Mars is an outer planet for both Aries and Scorpio, but an inner planet in addition for Scorpio. All aspects of the lower nature are involved in this crisis. For Mars is the esoteric ruler in Scorpio, and the tests applied involve the form nature. Gross, like the physical body, and subtle, like the astral and mental, integrated and potent. So we're really dealing there with quite an enemy to the higher of the pairs of opposites. Mars, therefore, rules Aries from the orthodox angle, and Scorpio esoterically, and does not again appear in the life of the individual, except as that individual responds to mass vibration, where Mars appears as ruling the 6th creative hierarchy, the lunar lords of form, nature, who must eventually be sacrificed to the higher spiritual aspect, brought under the control of the solar angel. And I think that tells us something about what we can expect with Mars in Sagittarius. They are burned up, and the burning grounds have much to do with Mars. And before every portal of initiation, there is a burning which occurs. The lunar lords of form, who must eventually be sacrificed to the higher spiritual aspect and brought under the control, we can call it solar angel or angel of the presence. The effect of Mars, in this case, is therefore largely mass effect, producing great struggles, but leading finally to great revelation. And I should have put that there because it's the beginning of the possibility of initiation. So, in Aries, it is the final revelation of the nature of knowledge and the purpose of incarnation. Now, these are very high things. In Scorpio, it is the revelation of the vision of liberation and service. In Sagittarius, it is the revelation of the purpose of soul control over the lower kingdoms in nature via the human energy center of energy. It must consequently never be forgotten that Mars establishes relationship or relations between the opposites and is, contrary to what ordinary astrology says, and is a beneficent and not a malefic factor, as is so often supposed. Okay. So here is Mars ruling in three ways, a triangle of signs. With different effects and great revelations that lie open to us after it has done its work. Maybe I just finish this little bit and don't get into this part about Mars being related to the sex impulse. When we come to the study of the hierarchies and their relations to the signs, certain points which are at present obscure will be clarified. Well, let's hope so. This we shall do when dealing with our final point in this section upon astrology and the rays. We shall then find that Scorpio rules and governs, note this, the fourth creative hierarchy. That's who we are. The human from the angle of the soul and not from the angle of the lower nature. So the initiates, the monads, are gathered together, and that's what Scorpio rules. The final struggle in Scorpio only takes place when the point of balance between soul and body has been reached in Libra, and it is in Scorpio, when things go right, of course, that the preponderance of the spiritual energy is imposed upon the personal forces. Soul and monad imposed upon the personal forces. Scorpio governs, quote, the initiates, which is the true esoteric name of man And through its hierarchical planetary ruler, this I have mentioned, right? The sons of mind, the messengers of deity, that's who we are revealed. But it is through Mars and Martian activity that this revelation comes about. Okay. Well, to say that all this is quite intricate is maybe an understatement. When is it that we meet again on esoteric, the science of triangles? Do we have that? Yeah. Joe or BL or anyone?
Michael?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the calendar for August, and it looks like we meet again on the 25th.
Okay. Good. Well, this has been our work for today. Looking at triple Mars and 3 signs which control in various ways, objective, subjective, and even, in a way, opening the door to the portal of initiation, and produce eventually high revelations. So the presence of Mars in this triangle is a beneficent and not a maleficent factor. But nevertheless, it is Venus that must win the day. And Mars, through these 3 signs of preparation, works at making that possible, even though its effect upon our planet can be very red, rude, and crude at first. Now, eventually, every warrior uses Mars, and we are the warriors. We are Scorpio, and behind the warriors, twixt the light and dark, blazes the light of hierarchy. So that's that wonderful mantram, he who faces towards the light and passes, well, I've offered it to you before, and I would not be remembering it accurately, but it's so good that I just gotta read it before we call it quits here. So, whoopsie. Yeah, it's blinded. He who faces towards the light is blinded by its radiance. So let's see if I can. Whoop. He who faces towards, as passes on the lighted way. Maybe it's that, huh? Let's see. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's no towards. That's my problem. Okay, but listen carefully, because it really shows us how Mars can work at first, and the beneficence of it. Because, Sagittarius in that triangle is the guardian of the gate. And Sagittarius, in one respect, rules the 9th petal of the egoic lotus. And when you get there, you're really ready to have a preliminary opening of the synthesis petals, one of which is ruled by Capricorn, the sign of initiation. So I've got to get rid of, in my mind, that word towards. He who faces the light and stands within its radiance is blinded to the issues of the world of men. He passes on the lighted way to the great center of absorption. Now, these are the so-called Pratyeka Buddhas. But he who feels the urge to pass that way, yet loves his brother on the darkened path, revolves upon the pedestal of light and turns the other way. Now that would be the bodhisattvas, right? He faces towards the dark, and then the 7 points of light within himself transmit the outward streaming light, and lo, the face of those upon the darkened way receives that light. For them the way is not so dark. Behind the warriors, twixt the light and dark, blazes the light of hierarchy. Now, that's really a good one to memorize, and at one point I had that and many other things memorized, but as my friend Francis Donald, who memorized I don't know how many of the stanzas of Xian, he says, it's very high maintenance work because you've almost got to go through it every day, and it takes an hour and a half to keep your memories polished and accurate. So maybe it's not quite so easy, but here you know where to find this discipleship in the New Age, page 15, volume 2. And it's a wonderful idea about where we, as the warriors, now that's immediately Mars, isn't it? But of course we have Mercury as a weapon too, where we stand and what is our relationship between those who are struggling forward. I mean, if Master DK were to read this himself, we would be the ones in the dark, and behind him would be the masters and the Chohans and so forth. So always from darkness to light, and the great revelation for our planet is to become a station of light, and finally, a great center of solar logoic kundalini power. Okay, friends, that's going to be it. Probably more than enough. And if there are statements that you would like to make or questions, then this is the time to do that. if there's anything. I know there's a lot of intricacy, a lot of cross-referencing. That's one of the things that I'm hoping to do in these classes, is not just stick with one book, but to reference across a number of books for items of interest bearing upon the present subject. And before I forget, tomorrow, Reappearance of the Christ broadcast at 5 o'clock, and then Glamour on Friday, which will be a Zoom. But tomorrow is a broadcast. So, is there anything anyone would like to ask or say, or whatever?
I don't see anything yet, Michael.
Okay. I'm trying to think about how best to develop pure reason. There are two types of pure reason. One is associated with the monastic permanent atom, and of course, it's like pure reasoning, and some aspect of the antikarana has to be developed. The other is pure, straight knowledge, discussed by the Tibetan in Esoteric Psychology number 2, I think around page 394. And he basically deals with inclusive reason, which is pretty much pure reason anyway. It's an advanced second ray method of meditation. Now, that is what the DK is such an expert in. I don't mean to take away and say he's not an expert in other things, but when you read his books, that straight knowledge of the many intricacies stand out. I just want to, kind of make sure that I'm not misadvising you, because it's worth it. And oh yeah. So, the beauty of this is you probably can't read a thing, because I was being color specific. But now I'm not going to be color specific. Now I'm just going to be visually available. There's a difference. Okay, inclusive reason. Now listen carefully, because this is what we're all trying to develop when we study with Master DK, and other things, of course. Is the wealth of his knowledge is extraordinary, but okay, let's see what he says. Inclusive reason, like pure reason, which is the theme for the initiatory, note that, initiatory meditation of the second ray disciple, produces that inherent divine capacity which enables the detail of the sensed whole to be grasped in meticulous entirety. Now that is the golden sentence. The detail of the sensed whole to be grasped in meticulous entirety. This wide yet detailed scope or universal recognition is extremely difficult for me to explain or for you to understand. The second ray has been called the ray of detailed knowledge, and where this term has been employed, the beginner, and what are we but that, the beginner has necessarily laid the emphasis upon the word detail. It might rather be called the ray of detailed unity, or the ray of the divine pattern, or of beauty in relationship. It involves on the part of the disciple a very high point of synthetic comprehension. Now that's the sentence, page or paragraph, page 393 and 394. And please look that over, because when I'm trying to connect things up, the detail of the sensed whole, I'm aiming, of course unsuccessfully, but I'm aiming at what this paragraph says, and of helping to build in our consciousness some little bit of this kind of apprehension. Now, when it comes to identify as being, it's completely the opposite. There we negate or pay no attention to the detail of the sensed whole. It's first ray method, largely. Inclusive reason is not so much involved, but isolated unity is involved. I'll get into it later when we get back to it, but I have an exercise now which came upon me where we oscillate between canceling out detail and restoring it. Cancel, restore, back and forth, until we realize there are two modes of apprehension, which we might call heart, eye, heart, eye, heart, eye. And interestingly, Alice Bailey, borrowing, I'm sure with permission from Madame Roerich, had two advanced lesson sets. First one called The Doctrine of the Eye, and the second, The Doctrine of the Heart. They were from the Agni Yoga books. But there's an oscillation, and one needs the eye, and hence the mind, and the other needs the heart, and hence being. I'm working on it, and I'll give you a chance to work on it too.
Michael?
Yeah.
You have a couple of comments here, and one of them is from Mary, and she says, how can we better strengthen that love instead of the feeling of being alone, and know that the group exists?
Let me get to that. Well, you know, this is the question of the activation of the heart and the pursuit of the ability to identify. And when you find that you are the same and unified with another and in the state of contemplation, we find that something more than being alone happens. Being alone is like mass consciousness, but you know how to play with that word. Being all one is same spelling, but more or less, but different from being alone. And, you know, he says something simple, simply think outwardly in love to one another. Now, maybe one way to do it, you know the people you love, and maybe you have a special kind of feeling and relationship with them. See if you can transfer it. Is it transferable to others? Work with your creative imagination and see if that is possible. I was just working today, and you'll be getting it very soon, on a series of questions that DK poses to us about sensitivity and personality, psychic powers, and mental polarization. And he gives the hints about how we should proceed. And it's very, very rich. And that will be coming to you shortly. But if we can establish the love for someone and then very subtly transfer it to others through the use of the creative imagination, then we are not alone. We are all one. And we are beginning to develop what the Christ developed superbly, the power of identification and the power to go beyond any ring past knot. As the story goes about him, he knew what was in man. So the group exists, but there are individuals in the group, and they have to be loved. And one of the very first questions about impersonality, well, that DK gave, you'll see it shortly, he says, well, when somebody opposes you, thinks in a way that you find negative and dismissible and all that, and then the first question he asks, do you love him? Do you remain silent? And then he goes down and down and down. Do you discuss him with others? Do you try to set him straight? And do you rely upon your mind? Do you withdraw into the mind? How do you try to set him straight if you do? But it begins with a question. Even though he is opposed to you, the very first question is, do you love him? So much is expected of us in that regard, and I would use the heart feeling and the creative imagination to develop this all one-ness. Even isolated unity is not aloneness. Isolated unity means you have isolated the wholeness within the many. Admittedly, it's an advanced kind of thing, and we have to practice, that's all. That's what I have to say about it.
Okay, and we've got a couple of more comments, but I just wanted to say I have posted your program from today already on Makara, and I gave them the link for that.
Thanks, Bill. You're very fast on that.
Okay, and then Anne Veronica says, you said that our planet is between two planets, but it is also between two signs on a cosmic path between Gemini and Sagittarius, according to Esoteric Astrology, page 356. Can you say a bit more? It seems our planet has a very difficult role in all of this.
Yes, of course. It has the role of a planet of struggle, where there's a concentration of energies from the primordial ray of the previous major solar system to the divine ray, which is supposed to show. Now, you know, Mars is part of a third ray entity, the ray ruling the previous major solar system. Venus has a similar kind of placement in a second ray entity whose three planets are Uranus, Jupiter, Venus, or however we want to arrange them. Venus probably in the middle. So it's that ongoing solar systemic struggle between the theme of the previous solar system and the theme that is supposed to emerge in love, indigo, divinity, and so forth in this major solar system. It is a very difficult redemptive path. But I suppose since our planetary logos has the first ray monad, we're not going to expect anything easy. So that's the first thing. And let's see, what page did you say the other was on?
Page 356 of EA.
356. Okay, let's see what that looks like. Because you always want to see what the original source may be. 3, 5, 6. 3, 5, 6. Okay. All right, so appeal will be made. Let's see if I can get that. Appeal will be made to the forces which can utilize planetary potency in order to work out the divine plan on Earth. It is because Venus thus relates certain pairs of opposites that she has been erroneously connected in the minds of men with sex and the sex life, and with the relation of the physical opposites, male and female. But, you know, apparently not. It's higher pairs of opposites that Venus is uniting. It is interesting to discover that the hierarchical ruler of Gemini is Earth itself, which is a non-sacred planet. Now, remember, the angels are associated with Gemini and the animals with Sagittarius. The Earth is also the esoteric ruler of Sagittarius, the polar opposite of Venus. These are the only two constellations ruled by the Earth, and this fact is of major significance, creating an unusual situation in this solar system and a unique relation. The cosmic line of force from Gemini to Sagittarius, I think somewhere on page 50 of this book, and the reverse is subjectively and esoterically related to our Earth, thus guaranteeing its soul development with, what shall I say, one of them promoting the alignment of the personality of Earth, because Sagittarius does that too, and the other promoting the coming in of the angelic beings. Basically, together, they made man, who is the animal plus the angel. And that combination became human, thus guaranteeing its soul development, the unfoldment of form as an expression of that soul, and leading our sorrowful humanity, because this is the planet of releasing sorrow and purifying pain, upon this woeful planet, woe is Scorpio, inevitably to the very gate of initiation in Capricorn. So really preparing the animal to become human, and then to become angelic in nature. In this statement and in the fact of the pain and sorrow, which are distinguishing qualities of our planetary life, lies hid, and not just a mystery, but a secret mystery. So I'll just let that one go, as it is a secret, and look over here on page 50, and we see a Pleiadian source with Gemini and Sagittarius through the agency of Mercury, involved with the fourth creative hierarchy, which is unknown. Now, interesting, the Pleiades have much to do, interestingly, with the coming of the solar angels. You wouldn't expect so, since it's the ruler of intelligence, but no, there's a place where he tells us about the Pleiades' relationship to the higher of the pairs of opposites. So this, let's see, where else is this found? There's another place that has even more information. The Devas hear the word, go forth. They sacrifice themselves, and out of their own substance they build the form desired, the lower Devas. They draw life and the material from themselves. They yield themselves to divine impulse. Basically, I think he basically says that this combination of Gemini Sagittarius rules the path of discipleship, and somewhere he does deal with that. And I think we looked at it, but I can't find it now. It's page 50 and another page, if we can find it. And then let's see, the preliminary path is ruled by Cancer, Capricorn, and a very advanced path by Aries and Libra. But we need the other reference in order to complete this. So think of it as the path of discipleship, in which the animal and the angel are combined to make the human being, and eventually man, and maybe the whole earth in a way, gives itself up to the higher, to its own soul nature, which is associated with Gemini and becomes the method of initiation for the entire planet, which ceases to be personally inclined and becomes angelically inclined. It begins to live according to its own solar angel, which is associated with Gemini. It's a complex question, as we have seen, about a hidden mystery and so forth. Okay.
And then we have a couple of more comments. Anna says, Mercury and Mars rule Scorpio in the human hierarchy, the planetary heart center. So the link with the heart leads to the personality's soul integration and activation of the will. The triangle Mercury, Mars, Venus then transforms the effect of Saturn as an initiating power and not just formative energy.
Okay. Mercury and Mars rule Scorpio and the human hierarchy. Yes, okay, yes, and especially Mercury, right? Especially Mercury is the hierarchical ruler. Now, why are we looking at the human hierarchy as the planetary heart center? As far as I know, am I missing something? But the human group is associated with the throat center of Sanat Kumara, and the higher humans with the Ajna center of Sanat Kumara. The hierarchy itself is for graduate human beings into the fifth kingdom of nature. So the link with the heart, you say, leads to the personality soul integration. Well, that may be true indeed, and activation of the will. But we have to understand how the heart is becoming involved here, because basically the hierarchy is the heart center of Sanat Kumara, and humanity is the throat and Ajna center of Sanat Kumara, and the graduate human beings enter hierarchy and are thus part of the planetary heart. The triangle Mercury, Mars, Venus then transforms the effect of Saturn as an, wait a second, sorry that I'm, as an initiating power and not just a formative energy. Well, let's just say that Saturn rules the entire cosmic physical plane and is, in a way, given as the permanent atom of the entire cosmic physical plane. So there's a great deal to Saturn. It's involved in a number of planes, particularly. It rules the whole cosmic physical plane. It rules the atomic plane. It has a strong connection with the mental plane and even with the fifth ray, as DK says in an obscure reference, and also with the outer form, the dense physical plane. Maybe in a certain sense it rules the etheric physical plane, but that's pretty much a combination of Uranus and Saturn. So Saturn, of course, is a synthesizing planet. And all these planets that we have listed here, Mars, Venus, and the Earth, are within a greater Saturn that we can call an esoteric Saturn. And maybe I should attempt to show it. I think Tuya has a representation of it. And let's see. Somewhere here. This is F disk. She has a representation with her diagrams. And let's see if we can find that. Okay. Now I'm going to put this here and just move forward. 1, 2, 4. There it is. Esoteric Saturn includes exoteric Saturn and all those planets that have been mentioned. So Saturn is an extremely powerful deity around whom there are many mysteries. See, here you find the here's Mars, here's Venus, here's the Earth, and they are definitely subsidiaries of the greater Saturn, which includes the lesser Saturn. So a study of these is strongly recommended, because I think there are a lot of mysteries in the shapes that DK has given. Now this one is all about the Earth scheme, and so is on a lower turn of the spiral. But this one shows us the greatness of Saturn. In a way, the oldest of the major gods. From a certain point of view, Uranus might be considered that, and also Saturn as the son of Uranus. And so basically what you have here in this picture is the three, a huge triangle, the three synthesizing planets, and in the case of Saturn, all the inclusions of other planets as subsidiaries. So what I'm trying to say is, let us give Saturn the tremendous dignity that it expresses. It's much more articulated right now than either Uranus or Neptune, because what we'll have with Uranus is the cosmic mental plane, and with Neptune the cosmic astral plane, and they are just not as fully unfolded. Okay, that's a few additional thoughts on these things.
And then Yvonne asks, have we had minor solar systems?
Yes. This is the fifth solar system. And only once we got to number 4 could we call it a major solar system. So the first 3 solar systems we can at least hypothesize as building up physically, astrally, and in a way lower mentally. And then when we get to the 4th solar system, we're building up Agni, or the personality of the solar logos. And when we get to our solar system, we're building up the influence of the soul of our solar logos upon the various planets and aspects of his solar system. And the next solar system, number 6, will be concerning the monads of the various planets which still remain associated with the solar logos. Now, will there be a 7th? Some references seem to say there will be, but it's mysterious, and it seems to take place synthetically and in the eternal now. So maybe with regard to time, it's not simply going to be another solar system of the kind that we have experienced.
Okay, and that's all that I see in the way of questions.
Okay, friends. So that's about the right timing. And tomorrow, the broadcast for the reappearance of the Christ. Friday, the Zoom meeting on glamour, and certainly there's enough of it to go around these days. We just have to recognize it. One of the questions that DK is asking his students, and that you will see on the program which BL posted, is, do you recognize glamour? And when it happens, do you really recognize it? And that's not such an easy response to give. Obviously, millions and millions of people do not recognize glamour, and even among aspirants and disciples, they may be glamored, and they don't recognize it. It's a question of exaggeration often, too much, too little, not proportionate. You can understand why Libra is so important in the dissipation of glamour, because it preserves right proportion. Okay, well, look, don't ever get discouraged. I mean, I've been discouraged, we've all been discouraged, but don't allow yourself to become discouraged when you are facing what Master DK has given us. It's astonishing in its depth, its order, and its meticulousness. okay, we just accept that. We absorb what we can, and that won't be done without study. And we meditate as deeply as we can. That has to be up to the development of a meditative attitude. And basically we purify, you know. The formula is quite simple. Sometimes formulas come in triangles, I might say. What are the energies coming out of Shambhala? Purification, destruction, organization. Another triangle. So let's be more and more aware of triangles on all levels as they underline our spiritual process. So I want to thank Biel and Joe and Michael for being here, and we'll be working with you forward as best possible. And thank you for your thanks. Yeah, indeed. We have, don't we? We have so much to learn. Just think of the hundreds and hundreds of years that Master DK has been studying these things in order to be able to present them to us. So please go to where BL has posted this, and some of you are on another little list where there's a side column with some words, many of which are incorrect because they don't hear what I say, but some appreciate those. So if you do want to be on a list which offers a slightly bigger picture, and under it a tracking of approximations, at least, of the words spoken, please let me know. And I'll try, somehow to respond to that. Okay. Lots of love and blessings from all of us on the communications team. And on we go. And we'll see you before long.